Hey everybody, today's video is going to be about why you should stop being a gossip. Stop talking shit to people in your friend groups, social circles. Basically quit being a gossipy little bitch. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is two reasons. I was rewriting my college book and going over my experiences in college and all of the gossip and reputation bullshit that I went through. And also, I was talking to a client and he had an interesting experience recently where something he said a long time ago, like fucking 7-8 years ago, came back to bite him in the ass. And he had a little bit of a surprise reaction at how he felt someone could be so petty over something so small because he doesn't understand the long-term repercussions of talking shit, but then didn't see the irony that he himself was upset over someone doing the exact same thing that he did to them 7-8 years before. But when it was done to him, it's not petty, it's something to complain about. But when he did it, oh, they should have forgotten about that, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. And it was really funny to experience or to hear him saying, because back when I was in college, I just saw how much people just, first of all, lie. Like, holy fucking shit, people lie a lot, right? Anything that could slightly, even just for them to want to talk about something, right? They will just twist and turn things just to make someone look bad, just to feel good about talking bad about someone, or to even somehow sabotage someone's reputation. And, you know, the rumors can be anything from the slight to like the extreme where you're almost accusing someone of something. And I've seen it all happen to other people, to myself, and I've even noticed, you know, I have been guilty of talking shit about people. Now, personally, most of the time I thought it was the right thing to do to talk shit to the person's face, right? Because I thought that that was the best way to handle business. And in a lot of ways it is. But you gotta know when is the right time to pull someone aside and talk to them one-on-one. And you have to realize that a lot of times it won't actually solve the problem. I used to think it was the right thing, right? I was tired of people talking shit about me, but then I was like, okay, I'm gonna confront them directly. Well, sometimes that made the situation worse because they don't have the maturity to have that discussion like an adult, and it just gives them more fuel to fire them talking shit about you. So a lot of the times when I would review something that happened in a friend group or a place where people can talk about you, I realized that just being quiet was very often the best solution. Now, there are times when you should 100% in a way talk shit to defend your name. That's if someone is like spreading rumors that are really bad and blatantly untrue, right? They are straight up slandering your name. Like, I have a client who slept with some girl and there was a rumor that she had an STD, and then it got transferred to him, which he got tested and there was nothing wrong with him. And also she, because of their bad breakup, she started kind of making him look like the psycho, when in fact her behavior was the psychotic behavior, right? She was painting it as if he was almost a psycho stalker, when in fact she was just like disappearing for weeks on end without any communication. And then he just kind of let it go. And then all of a sudden she twists it on him and makes him look like the bad guy. And then he goes around to hang out with those people and they all start acting like he's a fucking leper. And the only reason he found out was because eventually one of the girls who worked at the same bar had the courage and the fucking character to walk up and be like, hey, you should probably know why everyone's kind of acting weird around you, blah, 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 blah. She's saying all this, but I know it's untrue because I know she's a crazy bitch. So I know she's making this up. And he goes, yeah, of course she is, right? So he clears it up with one person and makes his case clear, okay? There is a very definite time to voice, to be loud and to be clear and to publicly acknowledge things, right? But there's also a lot of times where you just should be the fuck quiet. Just shut the fuck up, okay? Unless that's the circumstance when it comes to anything else, unless it's your absolute closest best friend, shut the fuck up. Stop fucking talking, right? I am a very, very trusting and naive and gullible person by nature. I have been for a long time, and I recognize I still am to a certain extent. No matter how many times I get burned, I'm much better now, but the way that I avoid it is I just shut the fuck up, even though I still feel the desire to be very I want to confide in people and be open and honest with them. It's my nature, right? And so because that's my nature, I also assume other people are going to be that way, right? If you see someone and they have a worldview, a lot of times what they're doing is projecting their own view of themselves. So if you find someone who's like super thinks everyone's a piece of shit, it's going to fuck them over and da-da-da-da-da, they're either going through a recent bad experience, so they're just kind of, you know, letting it out, or they themselves are like that, so they expect everyone else to be that way. So they're paranoid about the world because they know that they themselves, if they were a friend, they wouldn't trust themselves, basically, right? But I am very trusting, and what I learned the hard way is that when you say things, you want to assume that someone's going to hear it, especially the person that you're saying it to. It will find its way back to you, especially if it's untrue, and especially if it's slanderous, okay? Now, this requires a lot of nuance. So there's times where you can warn someone that you know about someone who's bad, sure, and like tell them, hey, this person is a bad person, X and Y happened, you need to be careful around them. Or, hey, this person fucked me over, I wouldn't really trust them, and I'm gonna stop hanging out with them. I'm just letting you know. There are times when you should do that, right? That's not talking shit. That's giving someone a heads up. But very often it's difficult to distinguish between talking shit and letting someone know what's up, okay? And you have to take great care to make sure that you're not doing the former and that you're just letting someone know something's up. So the experience, or the client who had his little experience and had his taste of karma almost, and the main subject of this video, this is how it happened. He had a friend from his high school, and when they were like, I think it was like 17 or something, his friend was talking to two girls and maybe hooking up with both of them. Well, he ended up, for some reason, telling one of the girls that he was kind of talking to and seeing another girl. Just straight up snitched on his buddy. Now, I don't know if he was official with one of these girls and then was cheating on her, or was just casually dating them. You know, the details do matter when it comes to a moral judgment of someone, right? But was that his place to go out of his way to tell that girl what was going on? I would say in most cases, no, right? The only time you should do that is when your motivation is purely compassionate. And a lot of times we think our motivations are compassionate, but they're not, right? It's very hard to see past your own bullshit sometimes. But from the way he told me, it was a bit of a petty move. It wasn't a compassionate move, right? For the sake of truth and morality, okay? Well, many years later now, that guy moved out of that city, moved to a different city, kind of started a new life. He wanted to turn a new leaf. And he was still dating a girl from back then, okay? Not like super serious, they're just kind of seeing each other, not official. Well, he tells me, because he's kind of complaining about how people don't always respect him and people kind of sometimes will be antagonistic towards him. And one of his examples was, yeah, I have this friend, you know, back from, you know, where I'm from, and he kind of fucked me over and he kind of proved he's not a good friend. And I was like, okay, well, give me the details. And he's like, well, basically I'm kind of seeing this girl, and he started to tell her that, you know, in the past I've been kind of a fuckboy. So not saying like, oh, he's seeing this girl or that girl, or he's cheating on you, because I don't think they're officially together. I think they're just, you know, hooking up. But just painted him as a fuckboy and was like, yeah, he's kind of a, you know, kind of a player, kind of uses girls, that kind of characterization. And he felt very betrayed by that. And what was really funny is as soon as he said that, I went, huh, that guy is a bit of a snake. That was my first thing. Yeah, that's kind of a snaky thing to do. It's very unnecessary. Then my second insight, it just came to my mind as if someone was whispering something. And the whisper was basically, ask him if he ever talked shit about this guy. Because I know the nature of gossip, right? I know that a lot of times what goes around comes around. Sometimes you're innocent and someone's just a piece of shit, but sometimes what goes around comes around. And so I said to him, I got a question for you. Was there ever a time when you did something around, you know, pretty similar to what he did to you? And he was like, no, man, you know, I've always been a good friend. I'm like, are you sure, right? Like, are you absolutely sure you've never talked shit? He's like, well, it's always the, yeah, but the well, like 6 years ago when we were in high school, you know, he was seeing two girls, and, you know, I told her that he was seeing another girl or talking to another girl. And that was the one and only time, the first and last time that friend ever yelled at me and got mad at me because he found out that he told her that. He's like, but that's it. You know, that's the only time. But that was the only time he ever yelled at me, and we've been cool ever since, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, Well, that sounds almost exactly like a mirror of what you're finding yourself in now. And of course, as is normal for all of us, right? Don't sit there and go, yeah, that hypocrite, right? You've been guilty of this shit as well, okay? So look into a mirror when you're criticizing other people, because I know I've done it too. Oh, why is everyone so mean to me? Maybe because you're a fucking asshole to people, you know? And he started defending it. Go, well, you know, is he really that petty? You know, that was water under the bridge. That was 7 years ago. What the fuck? That was in high school. I can't believe... He's like, has he really been holding on to this for so long? You know, what the fuck? Basically, that's petty and stupid. He shouldn't have done this. I said, it is petty and it is stupid. I'm not denying that. What he did was wrong. But you got to understand why people do things. Once you understand the motivations of people, just because it's not right doesn't mean they're not going to do it. Right? There's a lot of people who will do horrible things to you if you give them the opportunity. Well, they shouldn't do that to me. Well, they shouldn't. And they're going to have to pay the price eventually, either in this life or the next. But you could just avoid them doing that to you by not putting yourself in that fucking situation. What they did was still wrong, but you could have avoided it if you were a little bit more vigilant. So I said, dude, it's not like he was sitting there. And I explained to him the details of how this works, because I've really paid attention to, you know, because I was in a small school and I was able to understand how gossip was working, and I would hear this about myself or that, and I'd be like, that's a twist of what happened, or that didn't even happen at all. How the fuck did that? Or like one girl says one thing, and then by the time it ends up on the other side of the telephone, you remember that game telephone when you were a kid? You know, your teachers would have you play it and you say, okay, say a word to them. But by the time it gets to the other person, it changed. And sometimes it changed just because someone wanted to be a troll. Like they said yellow and then the person said, you know, cat, just because they wanted to be a fucking asshole, right? Anyone could have a ton of motivations for why they fuck with what was said, or why they will take the spear that eventually found their way to them and turn it on you. But the truth is, it's gonna end up on you if you were talking shit at some point. And even if you weren't, right? But you can reduce the amount of times you get fucked by not trying to fuck other people with your words, okay? Words are powerful, okay? And I said, look, this is how it works. You'll say something. It pisses them off, right? They'll remember it for a little while. Really, the wound will be very fresh, and it'll bug with, you know, fuck with them, right? But then it clears up and they don't feel the wound anymore, but there's always a little bit of a scar, right? And maybe they look at it occasionally and they'll remember it. Like, I don't know, they're hanging out with you and you're annoying. You don't do anything bad, you're just annoying. And then they go, yeah, fucking, he's being a dick today. You know, remember that one time when he did that, said that to that girl? Yeah, fuck that guy, right? Then he gets over it and he's fine. And then it becomes very faint, the scar, very faint, but it's always still there a little bit, right? He always remembers it. And it can pop up at random times, like phantom pain. And then years later, in this situation, you go away from him, right? He moved to a different city. You don't spend as much time with him. And a lot of times distance doesn't make the heart grow fonder. It makes the heart grow colder, okay? And he feels less of an allegiance towards you. He feels less of, you know, a sense of loyalty, right? And then these old wounds start to come up. And then there's a moment where he finds himself in a situation where you're hanging off a bridge. Let's say you find yourself in a precarious situation. You've kind of been a player, right? And then you're dating a girl, and he sees a chance to Mufasa you, kind of, right? You know, when Simba's dad is hanging up there, and then Mufasa's like, oh, this is a chance I can kill the king, right? And then he, you know, knocks your hand off and you fall down and you get trampled by the buffalo.
Long live the king.
So he finds himself in that situation. He's hanging out with his girlfriend, and then that girl who is the best friend, right? So he's hanging out with his girl, and then your buddy who fucked you, who said something shitty 7 years ago, his girl, or the girl he's dating, is hanging out as a, you know, you're hanging out, no, I almost said a threesome, that'd be weird. And you find yourself in a conversation, who, you know, and then you go home with that girl, and then you're reminded of him, you don't feel this allegiance towards him anymore, and then for some reason, I don't know, he didn't respond to your text today, right? He left you unread, you sent him some memes, and he betrayed you by not responding to them. Well, he goes home, and he remembers you because he was hanging out with your girl, and then he's with his girl, and he says, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah is, you know, in the other city now, you know, I haven't talked to him in a while, and da-da-da, you know, he's dating this girl, but I kind of feel bad for her because, you know, he's kind of a player sometimes. And the girlfriend goes, huh, really? He was, yeah. Like, yeah, you know, he kind of got around for a little bit of time. He kind of had some fun and da-da-da-da-da. Well, the girlfriend, of course, being a fucking girl, right, is gonna relay that to the girl because for whatever reason, it could be a compassionate reason, I want to protect her. It could just be a shit-talking reason, I want to fuck with their relationship. Who knows the character of these people? Then the girl that you're dating hears about it, and then tells to the guy, hey, I heard that blah, 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 blah. And she may be mad about it. She may not be, but it comes back to you. And then that scar that you left on a dude 7 years ago finds its way back to you. And because you forgot about what happened, it's not a scar on you that you can see, but it's a scar on someone else and they remember it. You forgot about it, but he didn't. And then the right context arose and he could have chosen not to do that, right? It's not a 100% guaranteed karmic, retribution, but he chose to take advantage of that moment. But then now he creates a scar, and that scar is going to come back to him, and then on and on and on, fucking forever, right? Now, this is not to talk about the nature of, karma. This is to talk about the nature of not talking shit, because he could have avoided that by not having talked to that friend. Now, could that friend still, because of the context of not being close to you anymore and not really hanging out with you anymore and feeling that bond of friendship kind of weakening, and for some reason he feels like talking shit that day, maybe he's in a bad mood and he wants to let out his anger, right? Or your girlfriend's hotter than his and he was hanging around. He's like, fuck, she's really hot. Like, why do I have the uglier friend? Who the fuck knows, right? He can still talk shit even if you never talk shit on him, right? But you lessen the chances of evil touching you if you don't speak evil. And most of the time when you're talking shit, you're speaking evil. There isn't a compassionate motivation behind you talking shit on someone. Whether it's true or false. If something's false, it's always wrong 100% of the time. But even if something is true, it needs to be said in the right way, to the right person, and for the right reason at the right time. There's so many conditions that are important for it to be beneficial, right? So again, it has to be true. It has to be said to the right person, right? If you have something to say, you got to say it to the person who needs to hear the information, not someone else, or you're just spreading gossip, right? And it needs to be able to help them, right? And if it doesn't satisfy those conditions, then why are you saying it? Why are you talking shit? And a lot of times when we talk shit, we're not really trying that hard to cause trouble. Sometimes we're just talking and we're not mindful. We're not paying attention to why we're doing things, right? We're not aware of why are you saying this in this moment to this person in this way? And it's a very difficult skill to learn, but you can start to practice mindfulness. And when you are interacting with people, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say helpful and true? And is it the right time to say it? And is it the right person to say it to? And keep practicing that and practicing that. And what will happen is you're going to give yourself a good reputation and avoid bad reputation, right? Think of good reputation and bad reputation as like little point values that slowly build up over a long time. Everything that you say to someone sees you do, or you do to someone, they're going to remember that. And it's always these little points. Sometimes you're really good, sometimes you're kind of shitty, or sometimes you're really bad and a little bit good. And for each person, it has a different effect. This person might see you going to be a player and he might respect it. He's like, oh yeah, he gets all the girls. He's really charismatic, da da da. Some other guy might hate on it and be like, oh, he's using girls. He's taking advantage of them and he's lying to them. And that may be true and it may not be true, right? One guy may value your skill with girls, but doesn't care if you have integrity with it. And another guy thinks it's shitty to talk to a lot of girls at once. And you're also going about it in a shitty way. So it's double bad to him, right? So you should always be having integrity and be honest, but one person might see something and admire it, and another person might hate it. And you could be the most perfect person on earth, and still someone will find a way to fucking hate on it because they're jealous, or because you remind them of who they could be. Like, you're always going to get hated on, but you can reduce how much hate if you avoid talking shit, okay? So let this client's little story, it's not that big of a deal, but it could affect the girl he's dating, right? Could affect that little relationship and speed up its end, okay? Or cause him, that's one fucking dumbass drama conversation he has to have with the girl. He could be completely loyal to her if they're officially together, I can't remember. But just the fact that it was poisoned in her mind that he kind of was a player before, he now has to have a dramatic conversation and, put out a fire. And it's, it adds stress to his life that he doesn't fucking need. Well, he might have avoided that if he hadn't done it to his friend 7 years ago, right? So remember, what you say can and will linger and very well might come back to bite you in the ass. So if it's going to bite you in the ass, make sure it's something sweet. You did something good and it finds its way back to you rather than something bad. So basically, a really simple lesson: stop being a gossipy little bitch, right? You're a man. Do things that you want to do so long as they don't hurt people. Say things that you want to say so long as they don't hurt people. Do your best to help others while you're doing what is good for you. Follow that, and you're pretty much always going to be in the clear. Okay. Hector Castillo, girlschase.com. Haven't done a social circle reputation video in a long time. They're very fun. They're very complex. I mean, they're simple, and I mean, just don't talk shit, right? But understanding how it all works and, you know, the depth of how reputation works is very complicated, so it can be kind of fun. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell. I'll be finishing my second edition of the college book pretty soon, so it'll go back on sale because, basically, the college book had a lot of shit talking in it. I was very angry when I wrote it at a lot of people from college. And so even though it had a lot of good advice, it had a little bit of very bad advice. And I wanted to get rid of that bad advice and then kind of tone down the anger so that it's a overall beneficial book rather than a really good book with a few shitty parts that shouldn't have been in there. So stay tuned for the second edition coming out relatively soon. I'm about more than 2/3 of the way through the second edit. So, all right, guys, I'll see you soon. Ciao. Bye.